always awkward when a person's just chilling up here and you're sitting there and you're like, kind of know the person you're sitting next to, but not well enough to really talk to them. It's Minnesota. We're all our own little ice houses. Or something. I don't know. Do any of you ice fish? I've never understood ice fishing. I mean, conceptually, I understand how ice fishing works. Fishing on ice. It's just there's better things to do if I want to be cold. So, all right, well, it's now 10:40, so I can start. We're going to talk today about landing your first 100 paying customers, because I think that's kind of the idea. How many of you don't want to have paying customers? Nice, you're all in the right room. This is amazing. So here we go. It's a collaborative session. What we mean by that, what I mean by that, I have to use singular language. I'm the only one up here. What I mean by that is that we're going to take the bulk of our time to kind of share stories, share experiences. We're going to compile 2 amazing lists of ways that you can either A, generate leads, or B, move those leads to conversion. For most of us in the tech scene, we don't get into it because we're amazing at sales or marketing. We get into it because we have a brilliant idea, or we have a technical background, and that connects us with certain people that have brilliant ideas, and we want to bring them to market. Often, at least in the things I've seen, it hasn't not happened because the idea wasn't right. So who is Paul? I'm the founder of a company locally called FreshFine. There's me with my namesake, Paul Bunyan. I found a founder of a previous company, Midwest Gear, that I sold in 2006. I'm about 6'2" with reasonable posture, and I've been doing software development for 15 years. I definitely come more from the technical side, although I do love the sales side, but I struggle to find time to sell, and oftentimes when I go to do the sales function of my role as CEO, I find that I often don't have great ideas of what to do. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. That's why I was like, this would be brilliant. I can get all these people in the room, and then they can give me their ideas, and I can give them my ideas, and then we'll leave, and we'll be amazing. So that's kind of why we're doing this session. We're doing this session because each of us have very unique ideas and experiences and things that we've been able to do in our own individual contexts. And I understand in advance, I'm going to place this little warning, that not every idea you hear is going to work for your startup, or work for your company, or work for your idea. You need to kind of filter it and contextualize these things so that they work for you. But the goal is, if you find yourself with an extra afternoon where you're like, hey, I have nothing to do this afternoon, I'd love to work on developing some more leads, or I've got this bucket of leads and I'm trying to figure out how to get them to actually sign up and start paying me money. We want to have these lists that you can just pull back up. Be like, I was at this awesome mini bar session where we did this. And so you can pull that up and you can look through and be like, I haven't tried that one yet. Like, let's give this a go for 3 hours and see what I can get accomplished. Because if you're anything like me, what this ends up becoming most times is you go to trusty Google, get more leads, or whatever you type in, and then you end up on this rabbit trail, and eventually you're at YouTube, and then all of a sudden my wife's calling me because it's 6 o'clock and I haven't actually left work yet, and I've done nothing. Which never happens in startups because we're just so motivated all the time. But that's why this session exists. I really want to, I know for me and for some of my friends that this has been a struggle for us, trying to get our products to market, trying to get greater adaptation, trying to get to that threshold where all of a sudden like people just start to know who you are and you just kind of get that momentum going. That doesn't just happen. It's not this internet magic. So what we'll avoid, we're going to avoid conversations about product market fit. We're going to avoid talking about your go-to-market strategy. We're going to avoid anything remotely resembling multi-level marketing, because that's horrifying. We're going to avoid bashing service X. You can put whatever you want in there. Again, this is the contextual piece. There's certain things that may work really well for one startup that may just be horrible wastes of time and money for others. And then we're going to also try to avoid service and product feedback. So the idea here is we want to share stories of what's worked well, or things that we'd like to try, so that we can kind of compile this master list that we can kind of all experiment with and kind of use as a base point to jump off from. So what we will share is our awesome lists of ideas, new ideas to inspire us, ideas to help us get unstuck, and ideas to improve our close rates. Because at the end of the day, if you get 1,000 leads in and only one signs up, you still only have one new customer. Or you can get 10 leads in and get 8 of them to sign up. I mean, at the end of the day, we want people signing up. We want people using our services and our products, and we want them paying us for it. So we have 50 super intense minutes together to have 2 conversations. Like I mentioned, the first one is finding customers. So this is about lead generation. The second is about closing each deal. So getting your leads to start paying you cash. That's all I pretty much have for the slideshow. So we're going to get down to business. This is going to be a collaborative session. Like I mentioned, we're breaking it in half into 2 pieces. We have 45 minutes left, which is fantastic. So we'll spend about 20 minutes on each conversation. And you can either tweet stuff in. You can use the little voice hive deal. So minibar.voicehive is kind of a cool way that you can just kind of type your idea in with your name, and then we'll be able to see that. Or you can go old school and just raise your hand. That also works. So the first conversation we're going to have is going to be on finding customers. So I got boom, ideas for lead generation. I'm going to kick it off because I'm the presenter and I think that's part of my job. One of the things that we've done in the last couple of years that's worked really fantastic is develop strategic partnerships. So these are opportunities that are win-wins. They're non-competitive in general. This is one of the things that I had in a business class in college, and I was like, that sounds neat. So you just like, I don't know. You're like, hey, I have this thing, and that guy has that thing, and they're both pretty cool. But it is really cool. And so the way we've been able to do this, a little background on my company, we do basically a CRM tool for member-based, community-based nonprofits and religious organizations to help them understand the involvement and engagement of their community. So for them, the best thing they can do is have more people involved because that means they're on mission, they're getting things done, they're moving towards their goal. Well, there's a lot of things that you can partner with in that space. So we've partnered with companies that do background checks. So if you have anybody doing things with finances or children, youth, whatever, like background checks are a good thing, good practice. That's an example of a great strategic partnership for us. We've also partnered with companies that do online donation management and process donations for nonprofits. Again, that's a space that we could go into, but we track the contribution piece. But early on, we realized that there are companies that have thousands and thousands of customers that only do that. And so if we partner with them and provide a value add with things like email campaigns and event management and member management and all of those tools, it ends up being a great win-win. So it takes a little while to get that set up. You generally need to have some product to market that they can see before they really care that you exist. But it's a great way, especially for bootstrap startups where you don't have tons of money to kind of dump into something. Depending on how you're able to negotiate the contract you have with your strategic partners, we don't actually owe money to any of our strategic partners. And one of the clauses we always put in is the mutual marketing clause, so that we tell our customer base about their service and inform them about how they can leverage it, and then they do the same for us. And oftentimes, because our product's as developed as it is, they're sizably larger than us, which then pushes a lot of traffic to us, which is really cool, really cool. So I thought I'd get the ball rolling with that. Does anybody here want to jump in with anything that they've done? We're just going to get right into this. I can keep going, but I'm going to get sick of my own voice. Dan?
I think we got our first 100 customers from the kind of direct user group. Co-founder is a teacher, and so he just went to the local tech education conferences and did a session, and just had an appropriately titled session, and there are 100, 200 people there, and I think that's where our first 100 customers came from.
Oh my gosh, this is horrifying because I can't spell and the screens aren't here. This is a very vulnerable spot for me to be in. That's a fantastic idea. The challenge for me, I guess it's none of your potential customers for me. So it's a great idea. I can't do it at the moment, but.
I bet you are talking to some of your customers, right?
Tim? Tim?
Future met at Mesa,
Mesa, yep.
and I talked about a friend of mine who's doing the multi-million-dollar campaign on Olivet.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, so now I'm remembering that this morning, I'm seeing her in a week, so.
Fantastic. It works! You guys should all go do ad hoc sessions now. Quick leave. Any other ideas? There's a million things you can do.
Cold call.
Cold calling, dialing for dollars. This is what we all love to do, right? Oh no.
But it does a lot more than just, lead gen. It helps you focus, message,
Oh yeah.
market, and then when you do find somebody that responds positively, hopefully you remembered what you said. That
That
caused
worked.
them to do that.
Yeah. And one thing with cold calling that we've done, the Hennepin County Library System has this awesome list service that they subscribe to. I think you actually have to be in the library to use it because it's like IP blocked or whatever. But you basically can get lists of any industry. The lists are pretty good and they're free, which makes them a lot better. So if you do want to do cold calling, we've built out a list of every church in the state of Minnesota, for example. That when I have downtime, I can just pull that up and just start dialing down the list. And so if you're looking for lists, again, there's people online that'll charge you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for good lists. But that's a free way to kind of get started.
Local chambers of commerce, I think the James J. Hill Library also has a ton of resources too.
Yep. It really depends, again, on what it is you're selling. And so there may be a particular niche or vertical or industry you're selling into. It may be a localized thing. So if it's localized, chambers of commerce would be fantastic resources. So that's great.
Big Book Online is really good.
Big Book Online? Okay.
Yeah, Big Book Online is really good. Networking within LinkedIn, real fast, real quick to get those clients in.
All right.
Ask for referrals.
Referrals.
You get one customer, referrals, and there are also systemic ways to drive referrals. Obviously, look at the Dropbox model. Get your friends to fill in, you get free things, and so on and so forth, free storage.
Yeah, definitely. And
But you don't ask, you're not going to get it.
yep. Yeah. Asking and actually talking to people is a huge step to actually, generating business. It's amazing how easy it is to forget that. That's really great.
A fine point in my experience helping people in transition is to differentiate between referral and introduction. A referral is, you should call
So-and-so.
Paul and give him my name, and the others who need to call you directly and say someone wants to meet with you, and you say yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's a good distinction. I think maybe a healthy way to think about it is like how engaged is the person giving the referral? Is it simply a passive supplying an email address kind of a thing? Or is it a, hey, I want to set this meeting up for you. Here, I'm going to call him and then I'm going to copy you on the follow-up email so that you know a little bit of the conversation that happened. That's great, Paul.
Actually, I think a great way of phrasing that as well is the, ask who you like to work with. So I've seen this even work with investors and things like that, and not asking them, who else should I talk to, or, asking for the referral, asking them, who do they like to work with in their own business, right? So it's much more about what they do and not about your own.
Oh no, my first typo.
Second, actually, Hennepin sounds
Before I put it online, I will definitely correct that.
Basic PR.
Basic PR. What do you mean by that? Because PR is kind of a loaded topic.
As simple as issuing a press release to calling local TV stations or contacting the industry person at like Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal, things like that.
And associations of your industry, so if you're selling widgets, then, you know, make sure that you're a member of an association that focuses on those widgets. Or if not, if you're looking at a particular market share that say it's manufacturing, you know, sign up with the manufacturing association so that you're
Okay.
exposed to those people. Put yourself where your clients are.
If I say get involved with associations, is that?
No, be a member of an association. Because then you're gonna be attending all the sessions. Like, I'm in IT sales. I'm at all of the mini asterisks, mini bar, mini demo, mini analytics.
Okay. No, I think that's good.
MSTA, you know, I mean, so you look up whatever association is for your industry, you know, be a member, attend the events, and that's how you get some more clients that way.
And one thing that kind of to build on that, because we're a part of a few different associations in our market space. And for us, we've done a few of the national conferences as vendors, and that actually hasn't been that great for us.
No,
But the networking and just the engaging with people, so just being there, and actually when I walked away from our booth and talked to other vendors, we actually were able to have the initial conversations with a number of people that became strategic partners of ours, simply because we're in the same space physically. And they're able to see me, they can kind of build a rapport one-on-one that's a lot more difficult to do over the phone, to do via email, things like that. So I think that's great. I will throw conventions and conferences.
Quick question, Paul. You, in your space, because it happens in our space, one of our spaces, you get perks. So if we exhibit, then we get discounts for them doing mailing, promotional mailings for us. They'll charge us for it, they'll give us the
Yes.
list. But then sometimes, depending on the event, they'll give us a directory, which we then in turn
Yeah. We've done a couple, there definitely are perks. One of the organizations we're part of, it's a National Church Business Administrators Association. And so we actually they have like a quarterly magazine that they put out. And so we get to write for that because we're members. They have a directory that they publish once a year in there that's like, hey, these are all the software providers that serve our market. So we get to have our name and a description in there and some bullet points. So there are definitely perks. Those are free perks. Then they do have other things where if we want to go above that, there are certain things we can do. I'm a little skeptical of traditional media, so like actually having them send postcards and stuff for us, I'm just like, I really don't care that much about doing that. But there are a lot of perks to being engaged. And there's certain organizations where like the decision maker at an organization may be really passionate about the association. And so when they find out that you have a connection or you're engaged with it, it can carry a lot of credibility into that conversation that you have with them because they're like, oh, Fresh Fine's a part of NACBA? That's fantastic. I love NACBA. And so then when you get on the phone with them or you sit down with them, you've kind of already gotten a lot of work done without even having met yet. So.
Answering questions. We're in the online marketing space, so it's very easy to find a ton of business owners always asking questions like the entrepreneur.com Facebook page. They'll throw out a question about SEO or online marketing. You'll have 100 people post comments and questions. It's very easy then to insert yourself in that conversation.
So you're saying, to kind of be active in discussion boards, things like that?
I mean, everything from like Manta, or like Manta has an awesome small business discussion forum where people are always asking questions, so it's very easy to be a resource and say, hey, we can touch base on the phone if you want.
Okay, cool. I also know in our space there's a number of online groups. So if they're LinkedIn groups, there's some that have their own websites where they focus on a particular IT issue or something like that. And so just having a presence, I use, I'll throw this in here, although this isn't something you can really just do on a regular basis, but Google Alerts. If you guys don't use Google Alerts, you are missing out on an amazing lead generation strategy. So I have probably, I don't even know, a dozen Google Alerts set up for different keywords, features of our software, different spellings of my company name, even my personal name, just because if somebody's like, Paul Prins is one of the most whatever, I don't know. Like, I'd like to be able to defend myself or be like, I totally agree with you, and then just kind of scare them that I saw it. But what this lets you do is when there's conversations that maybe happen on a message board somewhere that you've never seen before, and this has actually happened a few times for us, where it's like, hey, we're looking for membership software for our church. What are you guys using? You know, and they're asking kind of people within their organization, and then boom, it pops up on my Google Alerts. Like normally it takes about a day or two before Google crawls it and throws it into the alert engine. But all of a sudden, like I'm able to get to that forum, I sign up, and then I'm able to respond back in their context, in their environment, in their trusted network, and say, hey, I saw that you did this. I saw you ask this question, and we may or may not be a great fit for you, but I'd love to talk to you and see if what we're doing would be a great fit. And then lo and behold, they almost always contact you because it's like the most mind-blowing thing ever. I mean, I remember I picked my previous web host because I threw something up on my blog real quick, like, hey, I'm looking to move to dedicated hosting. Do any of my friends have any suggestions? And a guy from a hosting company in Chicago was like the first one in the comments, you know, and he's like, hey, I would love to talk with you, you know. And so it was like, oh, this guy obviously wants my business. You know, he came to me and said he wants to talk. The rates and everything were good, and I used them for 3.5 years before we just moved to AWS. But
There's one thing I would say about the online groups is just don't join them. Be active in them, especially on LinkedIn. You'll find that they will have discussions on whatever the topic is on that group. And so they're going to, if you just are a bystander just reading this stuff, that's great, that's informative. But if you want people to notice you and recognize you, you really need to take part in those discussions. You need to add your opinion, because then what's going to happen is they're going to see your name, and then all of a sudden like, oh, well, I wonder who Jim is. And then they're going to go on your LinkedIn, look you up, and think, oh, you know, that might be a business opportunity. I'm going to reach out and have coffee with that person. So they're not going to know who you are from Adam if you don't take part. You really need
absolutely.
to
And I think that's good advice kind of around the board if you're talking in the social space. You know, if just putting your name on a list isn't really going to do much. You have to be engaged. You have to participate. So.
Yeah, I would just say content marketing more generally. So somewhat similar to answering questions, but what my company does is primarily online lead generation, and most of that is around, you know, solving problems or answering questions for your customers.
So what would be examples of content that you'd create?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is answering questions. So for example,
Are we doing, I'm just trying to get specifics, because content marketing is a huge category.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, a lot of times what we do, say you're an e-commerce, you build e-commerce websites. Well, a lot of people that are maybe your customer might be looking for questions about which platform they should build on. So we might help you create content, maybe an ebook that says, you know, how to select an e-commerce platform. Then we would drive traffic to that on the landing page, you know, through SEO or paid search, social media, things like that. And then in exchange for giving us your contact information, you get access to the content.
Yeah.
Also, follow up on that, just having a blog that shows that you're an
Yeah.
expert in the space. And then again, leveraging search and other things to make sure that people are actually seeing that.
If your company or your service website doesn't have a blog, I think that would be like priority number one. Just because in terms of being able to generate content, to aggregate that content out, there's huge SEO benefits to having a blog. It creates fresh content, it updates your site. Search engines like sending people to things that are updated. You know, a better chance that that's actually relevant than a website that hasn't been updated in a few years. So, yeah.
One thing I'd say that like the online groups and the blogs is be really careful what content you do put in them. I've seen a lot on LinkedIn. There's engineers out there arguing with the competitors' engineers about how they're wrong and how bad their product is. And I think that just really turns out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, I don't know where to put this on here, but we have to remember that anything we do as either like a CEO of a startup, working in a startup, if we're trying to do lead generation, like we're ambassadors of our product. And so how we conduct ourselves, the language we use, how we treat others, speaks volumes to people. And you know, one of the hardest things for me to do is when we have customers that are leaving and you have that churn. I probably am one of the only CEOs that like hounds my old customers on the phone until they talk to me, because I want to know like, hey, I'm like, it's okay you left. Like, hear me say that, but are there things that we could do better next time for the next customer? You know, we have other customers than you. Like, if you had an issue, chances are some of them do too. And so it's like even taking that posture of like, we know our product isn't perfect, but it's pretty dang good. And so it's not going to be the right fit for everyone, but like wanting to treat people well. I know my competitors and I know the strengths of their software. And when we lose leads to our competitors, I kind of expected it based on the conversations that we have. It's like, yeah, they want something that's a lot more aligned with what they're doing. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up there. I still sell the daylights out of them, like trying to get them to use mine. But I know that there's different strengths. And that's kind of the product market fit stuff we're not going to talk about a whole lot. But
I wanted to, like, so I do technical engineering, Linux development stuff. And, you know, there's all these development lists for software development.
yep.
And for me, one of the, like, if you can post your code or your designs or your stuff on like an open source license, I think that's a really great way to get some visibility. And make sure you share it under like to me it works the best if you can share your IP under a license that if you give it to the community and the community gives back to you, because there's several different licenses, but like
Yep.
so there's like
And we don't need to go into licensing conversation. But yeah, no, that's a great idea. Being able to share content, whatever it is always great. Because especially if it's valuable content. So like code, design work, things like that, people are always looking for.
There's a dichotomy between sales and marketing. So
Yep.
sales is when I call you, and marketing is when you call me. Those two parties are going to have contrary viewpoints in terms of how they view a sale. You
Yep.
said whenever you lost a customer, you called them back and hounded the dickens out of them to try to resell it.
It wasn't to resell them, no.
Well, you continue to try to sell it. But the
Nope,
point
that
is-
was not what I said at all. What I said was I called them to understand why they left.
Okay.
Because I know that information is invaluable, and not having that's going to hurt my business in the future.
Okay. With what?
It was not a sales call.
I misconstrued what you said.
That's okay.
However, if you're making a sales call, rather than talking about features, if you're talking about benefits and the problems you solve, you're going to be closer to getting your customer because you're solving an actual problem.
Yep.
for them.
And
He's more concerned with a solved problem than he is with a
Yep. And we'll move on to the next section here in just a moment. But on that note, I definitely have noticed that when I engage the stories of what's happening in my customers and in their businesses, one, they reveal their needs. They reveal the things they're attempting to do and the things they're doing well, and it allows me to show the points of connection. You know, hey, you talked about how you did this great event every summer. It's this huge thing, and the whole community comes out. Like, this is a way that we could help you. And so even that is an approach that's worked really well. I'm a younger guy, and I like the whole storytelling conversational thing that us millennials get pegged for. So yeah, so we'll move on to converting leads. And so the way that this conversation is, you find people that express interest on some level, and there's a gap between then and them actually paying you something and signing up. So the goal here is, I've noticed in my business there have been kind of two phases on the sales side. Either you're struggling to get leads in the door, you don't have enough leads coming in, or you're trying to figure out, we've got 45 prospects that have expressed interest that we've talked to, that we've had conversations with, but haven't signed up yet. You know, how do we move them to the point of becoming customers? So one of the things we've done is sharing stories of our customers. And then we can use those stories and send them to our leads, to our prospects. It helps them connect with the software again. It helps them understand the value that we provide. And it's just kind of a very personal way that's not like a bulleted list. It's not like, it seems more passive and less aggressive on our side when we do that. And it's worked, I feel like it's worked well.
Well, I'd say probably one of the biggest ones that especially when we started with a couple of businesses, Google Analytics, and then the conversion stuff in Google Analytics, because we mail with MailChimp, which you can auto tweet, and then you get all these reports on how many people clicked and so on and so forth. And then with Google Analytics and the conversion piece, you put in an URL to a thank you page, for example, and then you can track who clicked.
Yeah, where they dropped off, where they
converted, and also what other paths they took for the site. But if you
Yep.
have a landing page, you know exactly if they left and they converted. And it's free.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
Plus, you learn all this stuff about what devices are they coming in on, which helps to move them more responsive.
Yep. It also helped me not allow you my software if you're using IE 8 or older. So you're less than 5% of my user base, blocked. I'm not supporting you anymore. You know how much time that takes? Ridiculous. Off my soapbox. Okay, another thing that I've had some friends have a lot of success with that I really want to implement, but I've just been too lazy or whatever, is this idea of drip email campaigns. And so they curate or create a series of messages that after kind of that initial conversation, you get thrown in this list, and then it'll drop an email to them maybe once a week for like the next maybe 4 weeks, something like that, that just kind of is reselling them or reminding them or informing them about the service you provide. So they get called a lot of different things. Drip email campaigns is kind of the, oh goodness, get my hand in the right spot. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, but just that concept of, you know, this email that gets sent out, it's something you can design once. You should revisit it so it doesn't seem too out of date. But that's like one of the very next things on my to-do list is to set that up. Because again, it's passive. It's something that you could set up in an afternoon potentially, and then start dropping your leads into as a way to remind them of what you're up to. And it can also be good for new users too, depending on the scope of your software. You know, to kind of help train and teach and inform them about the service they signed up for. So.
We found that continuous engagement is really important because there's really a third stage, right? After you convert that user into a paying customer, you got to retain their visits.
Mm-hmm.
And so you convert them into a customer who pays month 1, but month 2, month 3, if they're no longer really using your platform every week, they forget about you. And, you know, they're trying to figure out, well, why am I paying, you know, $50 a month or whatever for the service?
Yeah, definitely in the SaaS space, that's a huge.
So there's this engagement that
what do you do for engagement? Like,
so,
just what are a couple specific examples?
So for us, it's just simply sort of like gentle reminder emails, like, hey, this is what's happened over the last 2 weeks.
Okay, are these?
In almost a social sense to tell them what other participants in the system are doing. So
It's kind of a neat idea.
So it's
So it sounds similar to what you just described there. Sounds similar to kind of the drip email thing, but the content sounds a little different because it sounds like it's more generated based on activity.
right. So our goal is to get our customers coming back and using our platform every week.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Just to do something, right? Because if they don't visit us every week, sooner or later they'll forget about it.
Yep, and that's a little bit of a different conversation than what we're having right now, because that's about retention. And there's a different psychological mindset involved with your brand at that point, because...
What's important for us in terms of conversion is that our customers oftentimes start out free.
Okay, so you're a freemium model.
So
the upsell...
Yes and no, but we give them, here's a free trial, right?
Okay.
We want to convert that free trial customer into a paying
Okay,
customer.
I think free trials is actually something we could put up here.
But if you give them a free trial, then you got to keep engaging
right upside of the free trial is, if you watch any of Jason Cohen stuff, he does micro copy, he does like bootstrap
Okay.
sentences. Anyways, he always talks about versus a free trial, a money back guarantee, and you give them 60 days because 60 days gives them say that you do a normal free trial is 2 weeks to a month, right? But if you give them a longer time to be able to, really work your product and continuously get them engaging with your product, then they basically it creates a larger affinity for your product. And you initially got, and it's statistically proven that if someone's already entered their credit card information,
Boom.
it's likely to quit stopping the product.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great.
Just calling up the client and asking, hey, when do you want to get started? I mean, how much more do we got to go back and forth? We should
I'm going to
get
of our product, like how to correct spelling mistakes.
Yes, absolutely. Like we've been
Thanks,
going
guys.
back and forth asking questions all the time. Looking at our production schedule, can we expect a start date 2 weeks from now or 90 days from now? So you can help sort that kind of
Yeah, understand.
factor information.
Oh, that's great. I think that's one of the things that a lot of times, especially if you're one of the founders in a startup, it can be a really difficult question to ask because you're so invested, and the risk of them just saying no right in that moment can emotionally be a little difficult. But if you don't ask it, they also can't say yes, right? And I would rather find out quickly that they're just not interested and move on. Yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly.
One more basic thing I would add on the conversion is, again, LinkedIn. So if you've started up a relationship with a client, invite them to be one of your contacts on LinkedIn, because that creates, subconsciously that creates a partnership role that eventually will lead into your trusted advisory role.
Yeah, exactly. And I think trying to get connected with people on the platforms they like to use is really key. We, as a business, for us, our customer base isn't the most active on the social platforms, if you'd be surprised by that. Nonprofit and church administrators, I don't know. So we've actually chosen to use our social platforms on the business side almost exclusively for informing our customers. And so we treat it as a customer platform, and so when we do releases, like when this Heartbleed thing happened last week, that's the primary way we told them about when we'd resolved all the issues we had that everybody had with that. And then later that week, we made a more detailed blog post about kind of how we responded to it and how we dealt with it. But definitely using my personal channels to connect with people seems almost more powerful than using our kind of branded channels because it's me. It's not like the entity that is Fresh Fine. It's Paul Prins. Oh, I talked to him on the phone, and now he followed me on Twitter. That's kind of neat. So don't discount the power of that like one-on-one relationship, and I think the LinkedIn thing's a great example of that.
You differentiate between self-learned conversions, social lead gen, because there's the, I'm sure we've all experienced this, there's the soft one, which is it's totally up to me. Come on in and sign up for a free trial and all of that. And then there are the other harder conversions, which are harder lead gen, which is, oh, by the way, I'm going to give you this thing for free, and I know you really want it because you did a Google search on it.
Yeah.
PDF, white paper, whatever. You got to put in your name and email and
To get it.
phone number. And you know, when I do that, they're going to hammer the hell out of me for months to come.
Yep.
And I don't want to deal with all the unsubscribes. So how do you or anyone else deal with the balance between soft and hard lead gen and conversions?
That's a good question. For us, we focus most of our energy on the soft side of it. And in general, the primary way that we get our leads, aside from just dial in for dollars, is through contact forms on our website. And so we've optimized our site to have certain pathways to contact us that kind of helps us pre-qualify the level of interest and engagement that the lead has. And so for us, by filling out that form, they've kind of given us permission. They're like, hey, we're interested, we want to know more, we want to sign up. And so it creates a really easy way for us to connect with them. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot on the really hard sell side. Come on, computer. Oh, it's thinking. This could be the first time this computer crashes. That would be tragic. Does that make sense? I don't know if I answered the question, but yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, kind of that culture and remembering that you're ambassadors of your brand, and if you're harassing people, or if they understand what you're doing as harassing, it's going to hurt you, because that person is connected to other potential customers, and when they start talking about, hey, what software do you use for this, what product do you use for that, people remember bad experiences far better than they remember good experiences. And you don't want to be on that list of bad experiences. That's one of the reasons actually why I call my customers that leave. I don't expect them ever to sign up with me again. But if I can show them that I'm gracious, and that I understand that they left for a good reason, and that I want to make my software better for the next people, like that actually goes an incredibly long way with people, because they see that and they go, wow, okay, something here is a little bit different about this company. I've never been called before because I stopped using a service by the CEO because he wants to know what didn't work for me. And so the hope is that when a friend of theirs is looking for a product similar to ours in the future, that they will then, awesome, that some of that negativity that they maybe had associated with us when they left would be mitigated to a certain extent as well. That makes sense.
More likely to exaggerate the negative experiences too.
Oh, yeah. And if anybody here's ever had to do support, you know how that works. Oh my gosh, everything's broken. It's like, no, a date field won't update. It's a big difference. So.
Have you had any success leveraging your existing customer base to help you make the next sale? Like as in, I'm on a trial and you already have, this customer already has it, and hook those two people together.
We haven't done that yet. Some friends of mine who their model's substantially different than ours, but they run a startup called Conquer. It's a mobile game. Yep, Scott Davis and them. They have a very active online discussion board. And so their revenue is tied to basically in-app purchases. And they have a crazy high in-app purchase rate. It's insane for mobile gaming. And one of the things that they do is if they can get people involved in that discussion board, they kind of get drug into the community. And so there are ways you can do that. I've seen discussion boards be incredibly useful tools for that. So having discussion boards for your service could be a great way to connect organically prospects or trial users with people that are kind of actively using it and really engaged. Because I think you're right. I think nobody sells your product better than your customers. And so finding ways to tell their story, my customer base is all over North America, so it makes it a little difficult for me to connect one-on-one with them. But when I do, I try and bring a camera that I can record some video with and like ask them some questions about like, hey, how has using FreshFind helped your community grow or helped you better understand what's happening? Just so that I get kind of the word from my customers that's not always just me talking about how great my software is and it's going to help your organization grow and better understand itself and some of those things. So.
We kind of shy away from, I know you talked about the freemium model, but in our industry too, we try to get them to do a pilot. So moving them along quicker by doing at least a $500 or $1,000 and then 60-day money back. At least they get the data on the system. They get to see how easy it is to use. And so we really try to move them. It has helped us a lot to get a sale moved along quicker by doing that.
Oh my goodness. It doesn't help it's all upside down for me. embarrassing.
There's like a whole bunch of customers that are in the in-between stage that are interested in going back and forth and just then maybe host a workshop and invite them all in live for a
That's
training.
good.
For an hour, 3 hours, and don't try to like sugarcoat it. Like just give them everything you got for 2 hours.
I think that's great. I think it's a great idea. And I think what I'm touching on in some of these is that idea of like you or your business as kind of an industry leader, as kind of an expert in the category. And so anything you can do to kind of extend that and invite people into that experience is really helpful. Because if you're the leader, like one of the things we've been trying to do is position ourselves in our we do, I guess this should be up here too. Online demos. We use GoToMeeting a lot to demonstrate our software. Our software has a lot in it because of kind of the nature of its space in the organizations and how they use it. And so it's fairly discoverable, but it's nice to be able to just kind of walk through it with somebody one-on-one. So that's kind of our main pipeline right now is we get a lead, we call them, we kind of discover what their needs are and who they are. We attempt to set up an online meeting with them where we demo the software and highlight the things that came up in that first conversation to show them how Freshfind fits into their organization as kind of that base level, like this is the tool we use to do everything. And so then in that sense, we've kind of positioned ourselves as being inevitable because we know the systems most of these organizations are using is like this weird hodgepodge of Excel spreadsheets and QuickBooks and like all these things where just to find a phone number, like you have to call 3 other people to figure out like if you have the right number or the right email address. And so when we can show people how much simpler it is to use Freshfind, we like to say that like it basically becomes an inevitability for them because every time they're sitting there looking between 3 different spreadsheets, they're just getting angry that they can't just pull it up like super fast and just like be done with it. Or even have that person just look up the number yourself. And so by doing this, by doing demos, we also kind of tap into that piece as well.
You're basically giving people the factory tour. Who goes to a brewery or to a chocolate maker, to Hershey's, for example,
Yeah.
and walks through there and doesn't buy something after they see how the process is done. So anytime you can bring your potential customers behind the scenes with you, make them feel special, reveal how you do the things that you do, it's that factory tour mentality. I try to do it.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great way to describe it.
One thing we do for services, and we sell services, is we find out what the customer wants, and then ask them how they can validate that they actually got something out of it, and then show them our services.
The values.
But then show them actually that validation mechanism that actually speaks to them, and then they say, wow, this actually does validate exactly what I'm looking for. And then one other thing that's sometimes nice is a lot of people we work for have a boss, and all they want to do is impress their boss. So we give them exactly what it is they would need to impress their boss. They're like, okay, this is great. I can validate that I got what I need, and they can impress my boss, and they usually buy.
I like that one. I think we underestimate how much people do to impress their boss. We got about 1.5 minutes left here. So if there's any, Dan?
I wanted to say kind of when I was walking in, the why of getting your first 100 paying customers. And I think especially if you're starting out by yourself with a co-founder, if you can be profitable in the first 100, month-to-month cash flow wise, like be profitable in that first 100 customers, and that be kind of a bar, you are in a really, really good position for the future. You've really found something that works, and you don't have to. You've got something that basically can sustain you guys, right? Like that is amazing. That is
And I'm going to post all this online. I'll tweet it out using the minibar hashtag here in probably about 10-15 minutes. But Dan hit it right on the head. The whole reason why I wanted to do this session is because there are great ideas that I hear about on a regular basis here locally. And the challenge is not often on the technical or the idea side. It's on the execution and the sales side. We need to get people using our software. We need to get people paying us money so that we can pay our bills, pay our team, and actually make it. And so there's a lot of strategies around like the startup side of it and like getting your first customers. But once you kind of burn through that first list of people, where do you go? And so hopefully these tools will be things that you guys can reference back to when you've got an open afternoon, when you had a meeting cancel and you just are looking for something you can do maybe in an hour or an afternoon or something you can plug away at. So with the hope that we can kind of push all of our companies up and make Minneapolis even more awesome than it already is. So again, I'm Prins. Thanks for coming. And